The thing we're missing from here that you see on every single podcast at the moment is like the vertical wood on the wall. You know, the little slats? Yeah, that's your cold open, that.
Sage 50 is still relevant in 2025. We got more to talk about in this, the pilot episode of Sage Savvy. Let's get into it. There'll be some intro that you'll put in there in post.
There'll be an intro thing that will happen.
I can imagine it's a really cool tune.
Yeah, it'll be a really cool tune. It better be. Get it the most drum and bass intro you've ever found in your
You
life.
want drum and bass?
No, let's go like really hard. Let's have a little dubstep intro.
You want dubstep? What, for this demographic of people who are listening to Sage Savvy? How many crashes have we caused?
If you don't already know who I am, my name's Tim. Welcome to Get Sage Savvy, where we're surprisingly, as the name suggests, going to help you get Sage Savvy.
I can't wait. Generally, I think this is one of those ones where I feel like I shouldn't be here.
Do you feel out of place?
Yeah, I've put all my eggs into one basket. And there's obviously no way I'm ever going to do a zero podcast. But when you said to me, let's do a Sage podcast, I was like, you know what, Tim, you onto something here?
I think it was about 5 minutes after someone gave you a Sage branded water bottle and the world was immediately changed. But the reason I wanted to do this, and it's not just because, you know, we're good friends with Sage and, you know, like full disclosure, this isn't sponsored by Sage. We're not getting paid for this. We don't get any free stuff for this. We use Sage on a day-to-day basis in our practice. We do also have some clients on Xero and 1 or 2 on QuickBooks even. You'll be shocked to hear. But Sage is our main choice. And I think that what I've learned over the last year and a half, especially of being just more active on LinkedIn and accounting web and places like that, is that a lot of people have got a really outdated view of Sage.
Yeah.
So my idea here really isn't necessarily to like demand that everyone must use Sage and that Sage is the way forward and everyone should be using it and it's absolutely fantastic. It's to make sure that it's to help people actually make a bit more of an informed decision, because the number of people who, when you say the word Sage, they just go, oh God, no, Sage is terrible, move them to Xero. And you say, okay, cool, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Why do you think Sage is terrible? And the response is, well, because it's server-based and it's, you know, it's been around since 1986. And it's like, well, okay, so you're clearly thinking about a different product. You're thinking about Sage 50 or Sage 200 or whatever. Now, those are actually still relevant in certain sectors and certain businesses. And there are very, very good reasons, some financial and some not, as to why people continue to use that software and why it continues to be really, really good software. But Sage now is, you know, they're really up there at the forefront of AI.
Yep.
They're pushing Making Tax Digital, trying to make Making Tax Digital easier for both accountants and bookkeepers and end users, and just doing a lot of education around that, which has been invaluable because, as we've discussed elsewhere, a lot of people actually are completely unaware of what's going on with MTD and it's going to affect them. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And, you know, they've been on a bit of a buying spree the last few years. They've bought some really interesting things. Some of them, as we know, haven't worked out amazingly well, right?
But at least they got the checkbook out.
Well, yeah, and not every acquisition can be perfect, right?
And they'll learn from each one, right? Like there's a learning, isn't there? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you talk to anyone at Sage who's even remotely senior in the organisation, and, you know, although they're obviously not going to go into detail because that would be very unprofessional of them, but they will all freely admit that they learned from the GoProposal acquisition, and that's sometimes it's actually better, and this is not in defense of Sage and GoProposal or anything like that, but just in general, sometimes it's better to get something a bit wrong once and learn from it than it is to just get everything right first time, because you actually learn more from that. You learn more from your mistakes and from doing than you do from just getting everything perfect the first time. But then other acquisitions, Futurely, you know, they bought Futurely at an interesting time when Futurely was completely transitioning their whole product line anyway.
Yep.
I don't think anyone can possibly say that that's been a bad thing.
No.
Nothing, in my opinion, has changed for the worse since they acquired Futurely. Auto entry, we use auto entry a bit for certain tasks. And as far as I can tell, the only thing that's really changed in auto entry in the last few years is the colour. They've gone from red to green.
Yeah.
The functionality is still there. They've added some features to it. The integration into Sage has become faster, but it still integrates just as nicely into Xero, into QuickBooks.
Which in other circumstances, they kill those integrations, right?
Exactly. I think that accounting software buying other apps and killing the integrations into who they see as their competitors. I find it weak, to be honest, because if you are confident, that you are the best accounting platform, let's say, for argument's sake, let's not imagine it's any of them. Let's invent our own accounting platform, right? Let's call it AT. Okay.
Yeah.
We've bought this bit of software, and this bit of software previously integrated with AT and Xero and Sage and QuickBooks and MYOB and Penny Lane in France and what's the massive South African one that Sage bought a few years ago that people still use the old version of? It's like Peachtree or something like that. One of those ones, right? And all these other incredible... And then we go, right, actually, we think our main competitors are Xero and QuickBooks and Sage. So we're going to... You can't use that integration. Well, that integration is going away. Yeah. If you want to still use this app, you're going to have to come over to us, to AT, right? Yeah. Or, worse yet... They say, okay, this is now free to all of our users. We say, if you're you're using our bookkeeping platform, this app's free for you now. For everyone else, fees doubled. Now, if it's just something that's easily replaceable, like, we've all got our favorite receipt capture software, but let's face it, if your favorite receipt capture software went away tomorrow, you'd replace it with another one the next day and barely notice any difference, right? And there might be a couple of features that you miss from your particular favorite. Like if we had to stop using Lightyear, I'd really miss the how accurate it is on line item extraction, and I'd really miss the inventory integrations. But if I had to replace it with Dext or Apron or just use auto entry or something like that, it wouldn't really impact the quality of the business or the quality of my life that much.
It's just the pain for the clients, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when people are using deep integrations into things like reporting and analytics and things like that, if you take that away from them in any meaningful way, that can seriously impact their business. And a lot of people in that scenario don't have an easy backup, right? What if, Sift Analytics was acquired by Xero a little while ago, right? What if Sift Analytics suddenly said, that's it, we're only going to integrate with Xero now, right? There's people who are using QuickBooks and Free Agent and Sage and other systems that have built a whole service line advisory around using Sift Analytics right now. If they suddenly took that away, replacing that is going to take quite a while.
A long time, yeah.
Because even if you can replace it like for like, which, let's be honest, you can't.
No.
Because in the same vein that all the receipt capture apps have a lot of similarities, all the reporting apps are very, very different. There's quite a learning curve there.
100%.
The default output you get from Sift versus Futurely versus Fathom, and they're all very, very different platforms.
Yeah.
And it'd take you a long time to rebuild that service line within your practice. And if you're doing monthly or like us weekly reporting, that's devastating.
Yeah, it is. So Sage Savvy, the whole essence of this is we want to talk about Sage. We've started off on a nice little introduction. We've started off trying to figure out exactly what it is that we can dive into. You perfectly put there, very passionate response to the world that we are in at the moment. But let's give our listeners a bit of an insight as to why we believe we can, or what we can bring to the table here, right? Sage Savvy down the line may have more guests, may have more people in there. What gives us the right to sit here and talk about Sage? So I want to know your history first, Tim. I want you to go through, and then I'll give mine. But why Sage? Why not one of the other competitors?
So one of the main reasons we moved all of our clients a few years ago to Sage, because we used to use QuickBooks.
Okay, yeah.
One of the main reasons there were two main reasons we used, and they're going to seem petty at first. Okay.
Get myself prepared.
Yeah, I know. One of them was because the particular module of ICB that Millie was studying at the time recommended using Sage, setting up a free trial, and using Sage specifically for that module.
As part of the training. Yeah.
And we had a poke around at it. We really liked it. I'd used Sage 1, which I think no one is going to argue and say that it wasn't a disaster.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody liked Sage 1. It was deadly. And Millie said, it says use Sage. Now, I'd started and given up on various qualifications 10, 15 years ago. And that was always, here's a demo version of Sage Line 50, right? And I'd used Sage Line 50 at various places and Sage Instant accounts as well and various other versions of Sage. So I was like, Sage, interesting. Well, if you're having a look at it, I'll have a look at it as well. And then we just seriously considered hey, this is actually a really good system. We could do some work with this, right? Mm-hmm. The second part, and this is the bit that sounds petty. QBO used to have a desktop app, right? It was fast. Mm-hmm. It allowed you to have multiple clients open at the same time.
Yep.
It had keyboard shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
It was rapid, right? They retired it. They threatened to retire it. There was uproar. They kept it for a bit, and then they went ahead and retired it anyway.
Sunsetted it, yeah.
The speed of QuickBooks at that time, I could make a joke about their name, right? It was not quick, okay? Compared to their desktop app, because everything was reloading every time. Just entering a purchase invoice and then having to click save and new and then wait and then make a cup of tea and then wait for it to reload. It was painful, right? Everything was slower. Yeah. And because at that time the practice was quite new, and because of being in Guernsey, we didn't have too many other integrations tied into it. In fact, I don't think we had any at that time, because we hadn't found a good AP tool yet. So we were still, and we do everything line by line. So we were hand keying in invoices, right, which we got really fast at. We were quicker than the market leader at the time. And that's why, we tested that on a demo call with them, right? Because it was like, there's no way you can enter one of your invoices quicker than our software can. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So let's get on a call and do it. And we did, and we beat them. Right?
Yeah, nice.
So that's why it was easy-ish to move, to be honest. We toyed around with Odoo for a bit, and I really liked Odoo from a really geeky perspective, but from a day-to-day usability standpoint at that time, it just wasn't really there. So that's why we ended up on Sage, and then we started loudly making ourselves known.
Yeah.
We decided that it'd be really funny if we were a bit more famous, and we started going to, we go to account text and everything like that anyway, but we started actually turning up at these things and being like, right, hi Sage, we've got problems with Sage. I'm going to say problems, but small little things that we'd like to improve. Who do we talk to about that? How can we speak to you about this? So then we met Chris Downing, we met Tim Compton, we got assigned Jack Ryan as an account manager about a year ago now, who's been absolutely fantastic generally when he doesn't forget to reply to your messages. And I've specifically mentioned that because on the day we're recording this pilot episode, he messaged me saying he's really sorry that he didn't reply to a message I sent him 2 weeks ago. But I should point out, for the benefit of anyone listening or watching, that if it's actually important, he'll reply. It wasn't something important. It was probably, how was Oasis? So we just found that, unlike QuickBooks and Xero had always viewed us, TCS, as a practice, and the fact that we're in Guernsey as irrelevant. Okay. My relationship with Xero is that approximately every 9 months, someone rings up and goes, I'm your new account manager. Can we have a chat? Yeah. I did have a really good account manager with QuickBooks for about 9 months once, but then when he left, I got a new account manager, and then another one 3 weeks later, and then another one 3 weeks later. And I called up wanting to speak to my account manager about something once, and they didn't know who my account manager was because the guy had left or been moved on. And just, it was kind of, no one cares about the channel islands, no one cares about TCS. With Sage, I've got to be honest, we've never felt like they don't care about us. Like with any software, there are frustrations from time to time. There's always going to be things that not necessarily don't work, but they don't work the way I would like it to work, right? Because it's not my software, I haven't designed it. I'm not the only user. Yeah. But with Sage, they're very good at listening to our feedback, taking it on board. If they can make adjustments and changes to make our lives easier, they will, right? Or they'll say, look, that's actually a really good idea. We're gonna consider putting that on our development roadmap. Or that's a terrible idea and here's why, right? And they're often right. Or
100%.
Quite often, that's actually a really good idea, but there is absolutely no way that we can do that. And then they explain why they can't do that. Yeah. Okay. So I also really like the way that they had a bit of a reputation for being unstable in the Sage 1 days, and they've really focused on that stability of the product. And again, no cloud software is ever going to be perfect. You're always going to have the occasional error 500 because something's happened on the internet somewhere and it's been routed into nowhere. Yeah. But I really appreciate the way everything Sage has done the last year or so, or last 2 years really, has been, they've made sure that stability is there, that everything that they add to the product doesn't destroy something else within the product.
I love that. So my history with Sage, and it's really interesting you were saying that because you were talking about desktop, right? Yeah. So for me, Sage Line 50, before any other software in the accounting world was, for me that I'd kind of got used to, Sage Line 50 was my absolute baby. Like I speaking of being a power user, that was it. I knew every shortcut, I knew every import option. I
bet you still know half of them. Yeah. What's the shortcut key to copy the row above?
Wasn't it Alt F4?
Was it F6? Oh, F4 is quit.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. I knew that for a reason. That's at the end of the day.
So close though.
Yeah. But you had those power user solutions in there, right? And the whole thing about Sage 950 was it just gave you so much ways in which you could get the data in. Yeah. One of the things I find really frustrating about some software at the moment is they're very much like, this is my workflow, you follow my workflow, or it's over.
Yeah.
Where, especially our practice, we had people doing different ways and we'd all learn off one another. And I felt like that's the strength of a really good bookkeeping software, is when it can adapt different workflows, right? And it can let you put it in. In Sage, are you going to use those line by line items, or are you going to, there's multiple ways of doing it. And this was before bank feeds, before things like that. So I was learning how to get CSV files in there properly and everything else. And especially when I first started, it was very much a case of, if your client was on Windows, Sage Line 50.
Yeah.
If they're on a Mac, QuickBooks Desktop.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no other decision making.
No.
What operating system they're using depended on which software was right for them. Right.
Yeah.
So I loved Sage Line 50. I loved what they were trying to do there. I'm massively disappointed with Sage 1. I felt like that was a misstep, but I felt that at least Sage 1 was better than the hybrid approach they went for. I like the concept of the hybrid where
50C, 50 cloud. Yeah.
Sage Line 50 would go into the cloud and then come back down to the users. And as a concept, I saw where they were going. And for certain businesses out there, that would have been absolutely perfect, right? Like the idea that the data just comes back down, but it's also mimicking off there and everything else.
I mean, that would have been really useful. The way a lot of us work in our practices now, that would have been really useful, right? Because you, as the accountant, would be able to log in through the cloud without having to do... There's going to be people listening, and there's people sat in the room at the moment who are too young to remember this. But once upon a time, if you were sending your year-end files to your accountant, you put it all onto a floppy disk, the company file, and then you made really, really, really sure that no one changed anything in that year in the software until they'd sent the adjusted company file back to be re-imported, right? Yeah. And that was the standard workflow. And sometimes you had to actually download it onto a floppy disk and go and walk somewhere with it, or put it in the post or something, because you couldn't always email it, right? Because a lot of people were very slow in this profession to catch on to even just email, which is really surprising to think now, because the profession as a whole is now so tech forward. Generally, there are exceptions, of course, but it's generally so tech forward that if you think back even 15 years, it was rare to have people using everything in the cloud and everything online and being available by email and WhatsApp and Messenger and everything else. There's a reason accountants especially and bookkeepers had like a dusty, boring image, because a lot of them kind of were, right? And a lot of them had a lot of paper files and in their office, and there's a whole room just full of paper. And I've been in offices like that, and I've been in, I've worked for organisations like that in the past as well. Yeah. I think that's why the hybrid approach existed, and it would have actually been really good to solve that problem.
Yeah, because I imagine, and I've not used Sage 950 in a while, but I imagine they now have, electronic copies of the files, of the documents and everything else.
Sage Line 50 does a lot of things, and I don't think they even officially call it Line 50 anymore. I think it's just Sage 50.
Sage 50, Sage 200, it's them. Yeah.
One of the things that I think people misunderstand a lot is a lot of people think that to be modern, you have to be using cloud software, right? And I'm a big advocate of it. I really like the fact that we can log in from anywhere. More importantly, our client can be using the software, we can be using the software, concurrent users and all that kind of thing, and all those bad things from the old days are no longer an issue. But people think that, it's not in the cloud equates to it's old-fashioned, it doesn't work properly, okay? So there are many reasons why people might want to have something on-premise, and that doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to do all the things that we take for granted, right? Having a bank feed is not a cloud feature, right? No. There were bank feeds in QuickBooks Desktop, right? There still are. Yeah. There's a lot of controversy, especially in America at the moment, about sunsetting QBD and QB Pro, but there are bank feeds, right? You don't have to be in the cloud to have a bank feed. You don't have to be in the cloud to submit RTI, right? You don't have to be in the cloud to submit MTD for VAT. Yeah. Okay. There are many, many benefits to being cloud-based, and I fully would suggest that the vast, vast majority of businesses should be cloud-based.
Yeah, the smaller ones, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
But the way a lot of cloud-based things have been set up, it's more subscriptions, right? Yeah. Is it per user? Is it per client? Is it per transaction? Is it per block of something? Yeah. And where things like Sage 50 still are valid, and where you need to, if you're dealing with this kind of client, at least consider what their use case is before taking the default of, we'll just switch them to a cloud system. You need to consider things like, say, manufacturing, right? Bills of materials, okay, stock management,
100%, yeah.
all that kind of thing. And the complex ones as well, kit items, the ones where if you're manufacturing a batch of 1,000, you use X. If you're manufacturing a batch of 2,000, you don't use 2X, you use 1.93X because there's a material recovery or something like that. These are all things that are native in Sage and a couple of other things as well. And by going, we'll switch to, like, let's pick a random combination, okay, Xero and Inventory Unleashed, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're actually not maintaining the exact same functionality.
Nope.
Sometimes you're maintaining the same functionality, but increasing their monthly fees by a stunning amount of money.
And complexity.
Complexity.
Because training someone to use one piece of software is relatively straightforward, right? Like you can put your SOPs in place, but when you're having to jump between and make sure they're connected, and it just adds that extra layer of confusion, right?
Exactly, and that's why I'm absolutely not sitting here saying everyone should go back to server-based software, right?
Yeah,
not saying that at all, right?
Some clients.
But when you meet a potential new client, don't automatically assume that just because they're using something server-based and locally hosted, that doesn't mean that they're backwards. That doesn't mean that they need your, rescuing and bringing into the glorious cloud, right? Maybe they do. Okay, I've seen people still using old copies of Sage that they got free with a NatWest account 20 years ago to run a small business that actually, would be way better off on SPCA or on Xero or whatever, right? But I think it's just, let's all stop pretending that software's had its day and that it's completely irrelevant, because it isn't.
Do you think there's a world where we could have that hybrid model back? Is that?
I think let's be honest, what I would really love to see is exactly Sage 50, but cloud-based. We're never going to see exactly Sage 50, but cloud-based, because that's what Intact is, right?
Yeah.
And you've got Intact Lite coming incredibly fast down the line. It's a thing that exists. Intact Essentials. Intact is doing that instead. So you're probably going to see Sage 50. I would guess you're going to at some point see Sage 50 disappear completely, right? And it'll go on to life support, and then in probably another 15 or 20 years, they'll go around and batter down the door of the last 20 places using it and be like, for the love of God, we'll move to Intact, come on, because we're turning this off. There's definitely a world where even the hybrid approach, right? There are people who want to decloud. Okay, Our neighbour downstairs in the office has spent the last year or so declouding a lot of his architecture, right?
Wow.
So he's scrapped Office 365 and he's bought copies of Office. He's got a server that he stores all his documents on. And he has various good, valid reasons behind that. It's not paranoia, right? But he's got various good justifications as to why he's doing that, right? And he's got an old QuickBooks desktop license that he hasn't had to pay for about 9 years, because he doesn't need RTI, so he doesn't need the updates. Yeah. So it still works fine. And that's kind of my point, is that if you're looking at a client that currently uses Sage, don't assume that the default is, let's just switch them.
Yeah.
Because it's not always the way forward, and that business is not always going to benefit from that.
I must admit, when I sit here and kind of watch your practice, especially now I've had the chance to come over here and see the wonderful Guernsey and see the wonderful TCS offices, the one thing I do sit there looking a little bit jealous of is the ecosystem that you have, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where Sage definitely has the competitive advantage at this point in time. I'll always remember Sage Payroll, what a powerhouse of a solution, right? How that's still not forefront of accountants payroll, I don't know. I don't know what went wrong there. There's got to be a whole episode one day of how that happened, right? Because they were so far ahead. They were so far in there. And for whatever reason, whatever happened.
I mean, just the fact that some payroll softwares, many payroll softwares, still have an option to produce the PDF of the payslips in Sage format, right?
Yeah.
You can still go to WH Smith or TG Jones, whatever they're called now, and buy packs of, in larger branches, you can still go and buy Sage payslips and Sage invoice templates.
It was
like that's how embedded they were.
Yeah. I used to use Sage Accounts at one of the older firms, and it worked brilliantly. It was a night and day better than the solution I was using beforehand, which was Iris at the time. And I keep going back to, actually, there were some really nice bits about it. They just understood the accountant's approach, right? And they gave us those bits there. So kind of looking at that ecosystem, looking at what's there, it's a really good time to be in the Sage ecosystem, isn't it? When it's all starting, it feels like we're in that point where everything's starting to come together a little bit more, and they're starting to have that bit of unity between them all and everything else. I mean, from your point of view, how beneficial, I look at it over I'm looking, peeping over the thing, look at the grass and greener and everything else. Is it as good as it looks, or is it just like everything else where there's still a few little pain points here and there?
There's obviously still that you're always going to have a few little pain points, right? And some of them are going to be specific to us, and some of them are going to be actual, like, come on guys, this is an issue that you need to solve, right? And I'll happily give some examples of that. There's a weird thing in Sage at the moment where if you're in the bank matching screen specifically, and you search without expanding anything, you just search in, exactly like when you cache code a line, basically. If you put a space in what you're searching, then it just doesn't find any results, right? Or a symbol. But that's only in that one specific screen. Obviously, we know not to search with a space or a symbol, right? But that shouldn't be a problem. It's not a problem anywhere else in the system. It shouldn't be a problem, right? That's been fed back to Sage. We know they're looking at that. We know it'll get solved at some point, okay? And it's not, but it's all things like that. It's things that aren't disastrous. There's a few tiny little problems, and that's exactly the same in every other system, right? There's a few tiny little, in QuickBooks sometimes it spends so long loading a screen, it just decides to give up, right? In Xero, sometimes when you go back, it's forgotten all your date filters, right? These are all things where, so in Xero, if you're in a report and you want to go back and change something, it's going to forget all your date filters. So instead of hitting back, you rerun the report effectively and click through to the line items, right? So that's your workaround. Because will they fix it? Will they not fix it? Who knows? But now you know to avoid that, right? For me in Sage at the moment, there's no major headaches. The one headache for me is that a lot of people that are building apps, they think that they can do Xero, QuickBooks and Free Agent and then stop. So we speak to a lot of people where we say, you ever going to do a Sage integration? They go, no one uses Sage. So, well, that's not true, is it? Right?
Yeah. But is it less that no one uses Sage and more... And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm talking, 3-4 years ago when a mate of mine was building an app and going through all there. It felt like, and again, this could all have changed, but it felt like QuickBooks approaches... They've got this apps.com, they've got an open API, build, and they'll help support and put SDKs in and everything else. Xero was, we can help you build, but there's also this monetization option and there's an app store and we can...
put it in the app store and give us all your money or pay us.
Yeah, exactly. Where I always felt like Sage's approach was, we're not just going to let anyone come in. We're a walled garden, but we want to make sure the ones that come in are right, and then we'll support those ones that come in. Is that a fair assessment, or is that
I think it was, and I think it's currently yes and no. Okay. I think, and I will happily be corrected by anyone at Sage on this because I'm not an app developer.
Yeah.
But having spoken to a number of other app developers, people that have developed integrations for Sage, right? So like Gareth at Xenon, right? Yeah. We're beta testing the Sage integration for Xenon Connect at the moment, right? And we, some feedback to Gareth. He's told us some things about the process and why it's taken a long time to do this particular thing. Reveal as well, they're so closely Sage aligned, right? But we know they've had a couple of issues with synchronization from Sage Business Cloud, and we know that's resolved now. But we know it was really frustrating at the time. The impression that I get is that Sage will actually let anyone in, but you don't get the whole thing if you're just anyone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they have their preferred partners sort of status.
I think it's more that there's certain endpoints where they need to really understand your use case for it before they let you have them.
Fair play.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying, that's the approach everyone should follow, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Well, it makes it easier for you, right? Because if they have 20 preferred partners, whatever the number is, straight away there's a mark of
Well, we know the integration works. I've had so many things in the past where I've looked at an app that's going to integrate beautifully with Xero or QuickBooks or whatever, and then when you start to use it, you go, "Oh, that didn't work," and you reach out to support and you go, "Okay, why didn't X work?" And they go, "Oh no, that function doesn't synchronize."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Well, why not?"
Yeah.
I think one app years ago that I tried to help someone set up because he was adamant he wanted to use it, and he was like, he'd been fed all the sales speech and everything. He's like, it integrates beautifully and everything's incredible and into Xero, I think it was, and it couldn't bring across, for whatever reason, if you set up a new customer, it couldn't bring across their postcode or their phone number.
Right.
And that's not Xero's fault, right? Postcode and phone number are not secret endpoints, right? So that's whoever's developed this app missing something, being lazy. With Sage, we know that they've definitely had contact with Sage, right? They've spoken to them, they've reached out to them for support, and it's, you know, it should, in theory at least, be a relatively solid and stable integration.
I love that. So changing slightly, just because we're looking at the time here, and you know, we don't know how long Sage Savvy is supposed to go for at this point in time, but let's try to keep it under the 45 minutes if we can for our listeners. But if I say to you, or no, if I give you an assumption that I've got at this point in time, I want to know if you feel like I'm on the right track or if you feel like I'm completely missed, right? So outside looking in again, from my point of view, when we look at the world of AI, you've got Xero going down the Jax route, and let's be completely honest about what Jax is. At the moment, it's them trying to play catch up, it feels like, right? Intuit Assist is a behemoth of an AI solution for them, which I believe is going to take them to that next level. And I think the only competitor that realistically they have is Sage Copilot.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's a fair assessment, and I think that what's interesting about Copilot is that they are not. I was invited to an event at Sage a few months ago, where the CEO spoke about what their plan is for Copilot, and none of it's secret. I just can't remember exactly what they said, but I took in the important bits. The bit that I liked was the fact they're really thinking about what they can do with Copilot. They're not going, oh my God, AI, oh my God, AI, AI, get AI in there. The AI obsession is Bluetooth all over again, right? It's Wi-Fi all over again. It's like, can I put Bluetooth in my fingernail? Yeah, you can. Right, cool, I've got Bluetooth fingernails. What can you do with it? Nothing. But it's got Bluetooth, right? You were around in the 90s. You remember Bluetooth. Like, you know, and that's how I feel a lot of people are treating AI. Whereas what I feel Sage are doing now, you know, they've done the whole bedding in with the, you know, how many sales invoices have I got outstanding and all that everyone's done. But I feel like that's the training, that's the learning.
Yeah.
The next stages of Copilot are going to be things like, it's supposed to be intelligent, right? It's supposed to be artificial intelligent. It's not there just to help you do bank matching. It's there to recognize that you've done it wrong.
Yeah.
Or recognize that you've potentially made an error, or suggest to you, like, okay, based on the last 20,000 bank lines that you've matched, actually it should be this, right? Or to note that, hey, have you actually looked at this fixed asset account recently? You haven't, have you? There's something wrong with it. It's negative. Why is that? It shouldn't be. It's a fixed asset. Do you see what I mean? That's, for me, that's one of the best uses of AI, and that's where Sage Copilot is heading. It's the things that you miss, and it's saving you time on things. It's not, because at the moment, all the stuff about the AI things that I use day to day, transcription and things like that, that's all stuff that it's great for, because it's actually saving me time.
Yeah,
100%. A lot of the stuff that Jax is doing and that Intuit Assist is doing, well, maybe not so much Intuit Assist, but Jax especially, it's just doing stuff. It's all it's saving is wear and tear on your fingers. It's not saving you any time at all. It's just, you're asking it something, you're sitting there with your arms folded while it thinks, and then it's giving you the result. And in that time, you could have just searched yourself.
And you're not wowed by that, right? Like,
no.
And for us to get the adoption that AI needs to get to the next step, we need not me and you, we need the rest of the accounting industry, right? People listening to this thing are already wowed by AI in some respect, right? But there's a lot of the accounting industry who just don't get it, and they need to be wowed. And Jax isn't wowing anyone. No. I think what I would say is my most exciting thing for Intuit Assist isn't actually for QuickBooks, it's for the ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
The things it can do in there is just, mind-blowing. My favorite use case so far that I've seen, and I know Copilot does the same, is this, you request something from the client sends you something, it will just check there and then as they've sent it. That's the right thing you've sent.
Have they actually sent what you asked for? Yeah.
Well, I asked for P60 for 24.25. You've actually sent it. Well done. No, you've sent the wrong one. Sorry, this is the wrong one. Just pass it back. And they're getting that instant.
No, that's so useful.
That's huge, right? That's huge. And I think from a QuickBooks point of view, I'm so excited by what Intuit Assist can do in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
But Copilot's got an even bigger ecosystem to play with, right? That must be super exciting.
No, exactly. And if Copilot can be keeping an eye on what's going on with that client in Futurely versus, like on their forecasts that you've made for them and their budgets and everything, while you're just, entering a couple of bank statements or purchase invoices or anything like that. So it's just like, hey, have you actually thought about this, right? Like, hey, look at this transaction. That's the start of it, right? That's where it starts to become really, really useful.
100%.
It's not, it did all my bank matching for me.
Yeah.
Right. That is useful. That is going to save people time.
Yeah.
That is worth a little bit of money. But that's not the main point of it. The main point of AI isn't, I've done something in 1 minute that used to take me 2. The main point of AI is I've saved myself 450 hours this year, and I've saved 10 grand on average for every single client because I've spotted things earlier than I otherwise would have. Yeah. That's where we should all be aiming.
Yeah, and bank matching, whatever the other AI is going to be, it's going to be subjective anyway. You're going to get some that are happy, some who aren't. The black and white is, you know what, the client's really happy. The client got back straight away gratification, or got back straight away a bit of information, say X, Y, Z. Right? They get it. They feel like we're helping them along the journey. Exactly. Right? That's going to be the difference between you keeping that client or losing that client. Right? So to me, it's that black and white. That's what AI needs to come down to, black and white, not subjectivity. Because subjectivity, we're never going to please everyone, right? But if we can black and white go, this is cool, this is helping our clients, then it's a win for everyone, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, that was our first episode of Sage Savvy. Producer Lizzie is now waving her hands rigorously at us to stop recording, and we've gone over time.
How do we always go over time? Yeah, but she'll cut it down, so it's fine.
Well, is that what it's going to be? But Tim, talk to me, right? What do you want out of this podcast? What's your vision for it going forward? Because I feel like this is a different podcast to what else we have on the network.
So actually, there's kind of like a meta reason to it as well. When you guys told me about your idea for the Ask the Accountant network, I thought it sounded really cool. I thought it sounded really interesting. And I just wanted to work out a way to be part of that and to help that grow, right? And we've already seen, the MTD Watch series. That's fantastic. You're getting more interesting people talking about things that they know a lot about, right? Yeah. I've always had this thing that it could be a subject that doesn't interest you at all, right? It could be 5p coins, right? If you meet a guy who's the absolute world expert in 5p coins and every possible defect and every possible type and where they were minted during what years, and you might not be able to listen to him for 9 1-hour episodes or anything, but you'll be interested because that guy's so interested. Go and listen to Zoe tell you about whale sharks, right? And you'll be really interested in whale sharks, okay? Even though you've never really considered them before, and even though you maybe even found them boring before, right? Because you've got people want to share things that they know, and people want to share that information. And if that can help even a couple of people make a decision about something, then you've won, right? Like, you've made yourself feel better about your own life, and you've helped someone else improve theirs, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I want to encourage more people, whether it's with you guys and try and try and build out the network further, or whether they're doing their own thing. Like I'll mention Natasha, the bookkeeper superhero, the podcast, basically. Natasha, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. You edit it in, right? I recorded an episode of that with Natasha. We had to stop halfway through the first one because her electricity went off, but the second time was successful. Yeah. And that was really interesting because I got to discuss something that I thought was really useful for other people, and Natasha gets to share Natasha goes to every event and meets a load of people and doesn't necessarily get to share the interesting things that she learns off of them with everybody else. That's her opportunity to do so, and this is everyone's opportunity to do exactly the same thing. So I think anyone who's got any suggestions and any recommendations for if they think that you should help them make this podcast, then I reckon they should probably get in touch and tell you why they've got a really good podcast idea about why we should still be always posting journals credit first.
Oh, we'll get comments in for that one, won't we? I 100% agree. And I think that's why this really sits nicely, because this is a little bit different, right? A little bit out of it. And it's a different format as well, right? We're talking here. But I think the reason I'm excited for this is because I know, thanks to Ask the Accountant and thanks to meeting people like you, we've grown a really nice network of people, right? But it's interesting because I know X amount of Xero fans and people who would make a great podcast. And at some point, we will definitely have a Xero focused podcast, right? I know a handful of those. I know a really good group of the QuickBooks one, but it's, my network. So
Yeah, exactly.
you can expect them. I'm obviously going to attract
If you
those,
didn't know a
right?
load of QuickBooks people, I'd be really worried about you.
But what's crazy is that for every passionate QuickBooks and Xero, I can say there's the same number of passionate Sage users as well, right? Yet, let's not be around, but Sage doesn't have as big a hold on the FMS market, whatever we're supposed to call it now, than the other two, or but the passion's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
The passion is there. You cut the Sage users, they bleed green, Sage green, right?
And ours is mixed with ICB red, which makes a really confusing pattern on the floor. But
Is it just brown?
no, they sort of coexist side by side, like in each vein, half and half. Yeah.
Okay. You'll have to tell me how you do that. That must be a Guernsey thing.
It itches.
But I'm just so excited to kind of get to grips. I think, we'll continue doing this, but we've got to bring other of those passionate people on board as well. Chew the fat about it, understand it. There'll be some news that we can cover, and there'll be some opportunities and everything like that. But I feel like this community is just such a passionate community, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, our very first episode of Sage Safi. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that wonderful things. If you want to know more about the world of Sage, we're already in the right place. Make sure you like, subscribe, everything else. Tim, anything you'd like to plug?
Yes, keep an eye on our social media at both TCS and 65. We're officially launching that at the end of September. It's our new UK-based hospitality and retail-specific bookkeeping and payroll practice. We'll be heavily utilising Sage for that, as well as auto-entry, Futurely, and probably not Go Proposal. Sorry, it's still going to be Engager. So keep an eye on that. You can follow, we're on, it already exists. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram. The website's there at 65.group. And if you bizarrely are watching this because you're attending the Retail Technology and Takeaway Expo at XL on the last day of September and the first day of October, come and see us. We'll be at stand RTE 404. And finally, even though we're pre-recording, I'm going to say welcome and thanks for watching to Mehul, because I know he will be. And I'm pretty sure Kirsty will be there as well.
Yeah. Well, she's a QuickBooks person, so Kirsty, have you jumped ship?
I reckon you could, and she runs her practice using Xero.
I've noted.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of words we need to have at that point. Thank you, everybody. Stay savvy.
Bye-bye.